This episode of Philly Fame TV is sponsored by Top Dog Law. Now y'all already know who to call for any accidents or injury cases. If you want that top dollar, you better get at Top Dog. You can hit him up on Instagram at Top Dog Law or visit his website www.topdoglaw.com.
Alright, what's up, y'all? This Blizzy, man, Quinzell Reddick, also known as Blizzy, the author of Untreated Trauma, A Generational Curse, a book y'all definitely should check out. And right now, we tuned in to Philly Fame TV, man. Shout out to the Bro Show, man, for making these opportunities and these platforms for us.
Philly Fame. Philly Fame. Alright, Blizz, man. First and foremost, man, what's going on with you, man? How you holding up in there right now, man?
I'm staying solid, man. I'm remaining solid through it all, like through every stage of it, man. Remaining solid, just really waiting for my opportunity to get back out there.
All right. So tell the people how long you been away for up to this point.
So I fell in February 2011, February 9th, if I'm not mistaken, which was 10 days before my 21st birthday. And right now I'm 32. So I fell when I was a dub. And February 9th, that's coming up. That'll be 12 years of me being incarcerated.
Got you. And I mean, I know you fighting to come home and all that, and I mean, trying to get up out that joint. So, but tell the people what you currently in there for.
Right now, I was sentenced to 25 to 50 years for a homicide and an attempt to murder. You know what I mean? So, but I'm fighting to claim my innocence. I'm fighting to show my innocence and continuing that fight until they open up these gates. Like, that's just a fight.
Right. So have you had any appeals go through yet? I mean, or you in the process of one now? Like, explain that.
Yeah, the appeal process is real difficult. Like, that be the major setbacks, because it's like, in the beginning of my time upstate, like once I was sentenced, my appeal was in. You know what I mean? I had a paid attorney and my appeal was in. And you couldn't tell me that, you couldn't tell me that 12 years later I'd still be in here. You feel what I'm saying? So, because I'm like, and that's judging just off the case law surrounding my case. And when I was understanding that, just reading these case laws, seeing how it matched with my case perfectly, I thought I would have been out there, you know what I mean? But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And, I had multiple appeals denied. And once one pill was denied, it'll take like 2-3 years just for another pill to be heard. And that be the real hardships and the letdowns, not only for me and for the people that's in here that go through the same thing, but also mainly for the family and the support. You know what I mean? Like, cause you be so optimistic about your appeal being ready to get granted. When it don't go through, you understand the fact that, like, then that shit took 3 years just to get in front of the court. So now it's going to be another 3 years, and you got to explain that to your family and your support system. You know what I mean? So that's how that shit go. But right now I have, like, I got a pill and I'm waiting for a decision from the judge, and that's just how that be working.
Right. So off top, man, once your folks reached out about doing the interview, and they had let me know that you had wrote this book called Untreated Trauma, and that caught my attention because I'm like, damn, like, that's deep, because I know, like, a lot of people can relate to that, and that's probably like the reason why a lot of this stuff that's going on. So I was interested in learning more about, you know what I mean, you writing the book and all that, and what's the reasons behind it. And once you kind of told me a story, I was like, damn, this is gonna be crazy. You know what I mean? A genre for people to share. So let's start from let's go back from the beginning a little bit before we get, all into the book. But part of your story is definitely included in the book, so we going, it's gonna intertwine. So let's start from where you're originally from in the city.
I'm from North Philly, the Swamp Poodle section of North Philly, 26 in Indiana. And I was raised up the Northeast in the Oxford Circle in the projects. We was living in a projects called Oxford Village, what we called the Ville. And that's just like in the beginning of my childhood. So I was back and forth from the projects up the Northeast in the Oxford Circle to 26 in Indiana in that whole area. You know what I mean?
Right. So early on, man, you had, a pretty traumatic situation happen as a kid that kind of, that kind of, carried you on as you got older and stuff. Now, I mean, we'll get more into that, but, that's kind of how the story started off in the book, because I definitely checked the book out. Now, I mean, it was definitely well done, well written, a lot of detail. Now, I mean, you went in depth with a lot of this stuff, so I recommend everybody check it out. I mean, to get a further understanding of your story. But at 9 years old, I mean, you was talking about in the book, I mean, when your older brother had got killed by a police officer. So what year was this? Let's take the people back. So what year was this when this happened?
This was the beginning of the new era. This was 2000. This was the year 2000, so January 21st.
So you're 9 years old.
January 21st.
You're 9 years old, and you was explaining in the book how you had another older brother who closer in age to you. So you had two older brothers. One of them was much older, and the other one was closer to your age. So you explained how your brother that's closer to your age was waking you up. You was asleep and wake you up and basically telling you that your older brother had got killed by a cop. Now, I mean, you was explaining in detail your reaction and all that. So just get the people, because like you said, this. I mean, I got an older brother, and everybody that's a little brother know how crazy that could be to get that kind of news. So explain as a young kid going through that. Give him that whole rundown.
Yeah, like he said, like my brother, like you said, my brother, Sharon Kobier Howard, was 17 years old when he was shot and killed by a Philadelphia police officer on the 2800 of Banbury Street, the next block from 26 in Indiana. And since then, it was no justice served. It was none of that. We didn't get none of that. It wasn't no Black Lives Matter movements, nobody knocking on our doors, nobody marching for the life of my brother. So it was just raw. We just really had to deal with that.
Did it even make the news? My bad to cut you off, but did it make the news on the newspaper or anything like that?
Honestly, bro, I was so young, I wasn't even interested in that. I can't even tell you. I can't even, but at this time, I highly doubt it. You know what I'm saying? But I can't even tell you, I was so young and traumatized by that event that I wasn't interested in, none of that. You feel what I'm saying? Like, this was before social media and all that. I just knew that the person that I looked up to the most was gone. You know what I mean? Like, and that's deep, and that's deep. And like you said, once you get into the book, I get deep in it. Like, so yeah, my shout out to, like I said, long live Ron Dance. That's where everybody knew him as. Long live Ron Dance. I'm gonna keep his name going forever, no matter where I'm at. That's just how I'm gonna carry it. You know what I mean? He was 17 years old. So yeah, so my brother Terrell, that's the one that woke me up, and I was asleep. I was 9 years old. And, it was like a regular day. Like, it was like I was with my brother Sharon the day before he was killed, or that day that he was killed, and I actually wanted to ride with him. You feel what I'm saying? I wanted to ride with him. I was sitting in the car while he was washing his car. We was listening to DMX or Jay-Z, one of them. That was his favorite rappers. And I wanted to ride with him. I just, like, totally look up to this boy. Like, I really look up to my big brother. And so the next morning, my brother Terrell woke me up in tears. You know what I mean? Like you see like the blood not in his face. Like, he just was so sad before he even started speaking. Before I even could really wake up and see him start speaking, I just knew something was like devastating. I just knew like soon as I woke up, it's like soon you gotta imagine, like, soon as you wake up and see a person that you love so devastated, you knew your life is about to be changed forever. And then once he hit me with the news, like, Sharon got killed by a cop. You know what I mean? That's how he gave it to me. And I'm like, what? and I'm 9. Like, he's 10. He like, Sharon got killed by a cop, and he's in tears. So I'm like, man. So I get up and I run in Sharon's room. That was my first reaction, to look for my brother. Like, cause it's like, this, like, when you got big brothers, they like superheroes to you. You feel what I'm saying? That's how we look at them, especially when they thorough and how they carry or the influence that they have on you, and it impacts your life. I'm like, nothing had happened to my brother. And I was so young, I didn't really understand it. So I ran into his room looking for him. And once I got up and ran into his room, I felt my mom sitting on his bed, like, with the same look that my brother had. And we just ran into my mom's arms, and we just all hugged each other. And she just told me that the cops killed your brother. And, like, after that, like, my life was changed since then. Like, everything about it was different.
Right. So, Benz, though, like we was touching on, like, you was so young and something like that happened. I mean, was your brother in the streets at the time? Like, was he in the mix? I mean, outside?
No. Yeah, no doubt. Like, I'm not, like, like, my brother was in the streets. You gotta understand, we came from poverty. You know what I'm saying? We was living in the projects, and it was poverty. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then down 26 in Indiana, it was poverty, and we was all surrounded by the allures of the streets, drug dealers and things like that. And that what gives most of us hope. You know what I mean? A false sense of hope that that facade of wealth that we can get from the streets. So yeah, my brother was in the streets. My brother was 17 years old. And he had it, like, what I mean? He really took care of us. He was like the backbone of the family, for real, like, what I mean? So yeah, he was in the streets for sure.
Right. So did the story ever came out, like, what happened for us? Like, why did the cop shooting? Did he have a gun or something on you? Like, did any of that ever come out?
Yeah, honestly it did. He had a gun. He was carrying a gun when he was shot and killed. The cops jumped out on him while he was standing on 26 in Indiana, and he was carrying a gun. And one of his friends, who's up here right now, my man Ronnie, shout out to Ronnie. He just pulled up, and he was with a couple girls, and he told my brother to get in. My brother pointed at his hip, like, nah, I'm strapped. You know what I mean? So he went around the block. And by the time he made it back, my brother was on the ground. You know what I mean? So he was carrying a gun. The cops pulled up. And, he ran. He ran, which is most of our reactions. I got 4 gun cases right now. Every time they pulled up on me, I ran. But I'm not dead. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's that. Yeah. So that's not enough to shoot someone just because they got a gun. And a lot of times in the news, they try to portray that. Like, I even seen shootings, like cop shootings, when they kill a black man and pick up a taser and put it by him just to say he had a weapon near him. Like, yeah, like, so he had a gun, but so what? He never fired the gun. He was 17 years old. He wasn't about to go out on no suicide mission. He was trying to get the gun off him. And like in the book, so that story came out, but the crazy thing about it, like, within that story, 5 years later, and this no cat, like, 5 years later, I was standing on 26 in Indiana, and I had a gun on me. Like I said, I got 4 gun cases. I had a gun on me, standing on 26 in Indiana, and the cops pulled up, and I ran, and they chased me. And I took my gun out because I had a little bullshit 22. I was like 14, 15. I took my gun out, so I'm running with my gun in my hand, and I toss it. And as I was running, bro, on some real shit, I was so conscious at the time that this how everything transpired leading up to my brother's death. Like, as I'm running from the cops when they pulled up on me, I was so conscious of that. So I ran towards Banbury Street, which is the block my brother was killed on. And I'm like, and that would have gave me a clear advantage to get away. But I'm like, I'm not running up that block because my brother was killed on that block. So I skipped that block and turned on Spelman Street, which is the next block, and I tossed my gun under the car, and they wound up jumping on me. And it actually was the same cop that killed my brother. You know what I mean? Like, the same cop that shot and killed my brother for the same thing that he arrested me for 5 years later, still was on duty and was able to do the same thing, you know what I mean? And we had a real intense standoff at the district. I didn't know it was the cop that killed my brother when he was chasing me. I never seen this cop. I just grew up off his name. He was more revered, or equally as revered as most of the drug dealers and the killers that was in my neighborhood, like Officer Hernandez. Anybody from around that area know what's up with Officer Hernandez. You know what I mean? So once I get to the district, you know, I'm just sitting there. I'm just ready to be booked in. I'm ready, I'm ready to just to go through the whole process of it. And the cop just come in, and he come in the cell that I was in, and he just was standing there, and like I don't know who he is, who this clown was. So, and I'm just looking at him like, what the fuck is you looking at? You know what I mean? And then he just got like this smirk on his face. So I just looked at his badge, and I'm like, damn, Officer Hernandez. I'm like, yo, you killed my brother. You know what I mean? And then, he just like had that same smirk on his face, and I stood up in that cell, and he like, I ain't kill your brother. And I'm like, no, fuck that. I grew up off of you. Like, I grew up off that name. And that's like a deep thing in its own, because me being 9, understanding and learning that my brother was killed by a cop, I didn't have a face on that cop. You feel what I'm saying? Right. I didn't have so every cop that I seen, I felt like killed my brother. You feel what I'm saying? Every cop that I seen, I felt like had a part in that. You know what I mean? So once I seen this clown, he like, I ain't kill your brother. I'm like, no, fuck that. I grew up off of you. You killed my brother. And he tell me, he like, yeah, I watched you grow up, and I knew what you was gonna be. Like, I knew what you was gonna be, and I watched you grow up. And I'm like, if I would have knew it was you, I would have killed you. Like, that's what I told the cop. Like, I would have killed you. And he said, and I'm quoting what he said, like this verbatim. He said, if you would have turned around, I would have killed you. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, that's how that happened. But like going back to that, that's not enough for a person to have a gun. That's not a death warrant. You know what I mean? Running with a gun, especially, and my brother was shot in his back. You know what I mean? He didn't turn around. He was shot in his back as he was running. So yeah, the pussy shot my brother in his back, no matter if he had a gun or not. You know what I mean? Because I had a gun. Like I said, every time I got 4 gun cases. Every time they pulled up on me, I ran, and they never shot me on my back. And it probably was because they didn't have the opportunity to do so. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So that's a crazy situation. Like you said, 5 years later, for you to be in that situation and then confronted with the guy that did that. So then fast forward from 14, we're gonna jump back too, but fast forward from 14 to, you said, 21, where you got locked up for the situation with now. So at what point in time did you realize that you had untreated trauma from the situation that happened when you was 9? Because you was young all throughout. Even when you was 14, you still a young boy. So like, and then you get locked up at 21. Sure. You still a young man. So at what point did it dawn on you, like, damn, a lot of stuff that I did or a lot of decisions I made in my life is a result of when my brother got killed, and I never got the proper help to get over that and to deal with that. At what point did you realize that?
Honestly, it took me I probably was 30 years old. Like I said, I'm 32, because like once you like, I'm in here, and when I say I'm doing this shit solid, I don't mean because I ain't telling nobody or none of that. Like that, that shit that I was raised on. So when I say that, I mean like, as people growing and evolving out there, so am I in here. So in doing that, I have to be very growth conscious and conscious of everything that I'm doing and how this time is affecting me. So I'm real I practice introspection, which is like really digging deep into myself and understanding my actions and my reactions to everything that's around me. So once I got to that stage, I probably was like 30, and it was like, I really dig so deep, and it's like, yo, and I'm looking at my childhood and realizing all the childhood traumas that affected me, and I could pinpoint, and it affect me to this day. Like, I got certain reactions to shit now, even 32, that was caused from when I was 7 or when I was 14. And it's like, damn, that's untreated trauma. And I realized, like, yo, that's untreated trauma. If this shit, if something happened to me when I was 9 and it's affecting me now at 32 and it's affecting my decisions or my indecisions, I'm like, yo, like, that's untreated trauma. So I started really focusing on that. Like I said, I'm super growth conscious. I'm super conscious. I'm about, you know, what's going on around me now. And that took time. Like, that took, like, you know, like I said, I was like 30, you know what I'm saying? I'm on it, but I've been on it like in my 20s, like being incarcerated. You know, I went through a lot of stages of growth in here still, you know what I mean? But I just was super conscious on like, yo, I gotta evolve because like that shit don't stop just because I'm in here. And I know the people that I left out there, you know, old girlfriends and old homies, they evolving. So it's like, yo, I gotta evolve. I gotta match that shit. And I really and it's like I don't got the money or the, I mean. I got, you know, I can't buy the jewels and the clothes to match that shit. So it's like, how can I match that shit? And it's like, you got to match that shit in character. You feel what I'm saying? So it's like, you got to be rich in character. You got to have $1 billion character. And it's like, how you do that when you got certain reactions that you don't even understand? So I had to dig deep in that and check the untreated trauma and really iron that out, man, and really fix that and heal from that. And I'm still healing from it now. Like you're not just going to get over shit in 2 years. You know what I'm saying? Like you really got it's a daily practice understanding yourself. So I really locked in on understanding myself, and you know, and that's just making me even more solid.
All right. So pretty much like you basically acknowledging like the trauma that you experienced as a kid that didn't get treated resulted in some of the, like you said, some of the decisions and the indecisions you made as an adult. So now,
right.
And then in the book, and also when we was talking, you was kind of connecting that to what's going on in the city today, and with people that you see that's locked up with you in there. Like you could see like how the untreated trauma from maybe their childhood or their youth years has affected them and made them make certain decisions and all that. So speak a little bit on how that connects to what you see going on in the city today. You know, the homicide rate through the roof, carjackings, all this stuff. And a lot of those people had experienced trauma, like maybe their brothers got killed or their close homies got killed, and it made them, you know, and they didn't get the proper help, and it made them go a whole different direction. So speak a little bit on that.
Right, 100%. Like you said, they didn't get the proper help, and they not getting the proper help, and it may take time to feel like they even need some help. Cause like it's crazy now, and it's like even in here, I be finding it funny, cause even in here it be like, you know, I'm in prison, like I'm in prison and I'm locked up for what I just explained, and so is most of the guys that I'm around. From every generation. It's older generations. I'm in here with guys that been locked up for 40 years and guys that been locked up for 20 years and guys that been locked up for 10 years. So these is generational gaps. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it'd be funny because it'd be like, it's a judgment on every generation. Like the old heads that been locked up for, they got 40 and they look at the old heads that got a dub and judge them like it wasn't like that. And the old heads that got a dub, and they may look at us and my generation like, y'all fuck the game up. And we might, and dudes in my generation look at the generation now that's going on out there like, these young boys crazy as shit. And what everybody is failing to realize is that every generation that followed the previous generation has gotten worse, and the generation before that is responsible for it. You feel what I'm saying? That's why it's called a generational curse. Like, it's responsible for it. So the young boys that's out there running around now, it's like, for sure, if you look in a lot of their histories, they even got fathers that was murdered. They even got brothers or mothers or sisters that probably was murdered, or that probably was raped, or that probably was shot, or they just growing up in the hood surrounded by the drugs, guns, and violence every day. And if this is happening all around you, it can be traumatizing in itself. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. You don't even have to have someone that was murdered. If you just that was murdered in your family or in your friend group, or your social group. But if this shit going on around you and you seeing it, it's going to affect you, and then it's traumatizing by yourself because you actually living in a war zone.
Not to cut you up, but I wanted to touch on something you said because because we come from the hood, it's like normal. Like if you live in the hood and you live amongst this, you kind of normalize it when really it's not normal to see this kind of stuff on a daily basis. Know what I mean? Go ahead. My bad. I just had to put that out there. Yeah.
No, and that's like a major point because it's not normal. It's not normal. So when that's not normal, we growing up with it, we become abnormal. Like we're not normal, and we don't really see it until you in a different community, or you a part of a different conversation, and you see like, yo, this boy not normal. How you normal? This like young 15-year-old got 5 bodies. Like that shit ain't normal in regular communities, but in the hood, it's like we so numb to that, and we fascinated through death because of trauma. You know what I'm saying? Like a physician, he said, I'm trying to think of his name. I think it was Dr. Brubrick, a psychologist, and he said that once kids experience trauma, they become fascinated by death or fascinated by protecting themselves, the safety of themselves and the safety of their loved ones. So right now what we seeing is, it's like I said, a whole bunch of young kids that was affected by my generation or the generation before them. And we talking about the crime rate, we talking about murder, we talking about shootings, we talking about selling drugs, and we didn't do nothing to help them. We just did stuff to influence them and left them without guidance. So now they running around still in poverty. You know what I mean? Just with empathy that doesn't exist in them, that didn't exist in us, and now they evolved to a point like they more dangerous. Like it's like the state of evolution. Like people is going to evolve, an organism is going to evolve. So it's just like that in the streets. These young boys just evolved to become more dangerous because their environments are super dangerous, and that's how they grew up. They out there like, I'm not letting nobody kill me. They super paranoid, super impulsive, and that's the direct result of PTSD.
Oh, that's real. That's real. So with that being said, you know, being as though you did the knowledge and the education on yourself, learning about this type of stuff, and then you wrote the book and you put a lot of good information in there as well with background information. Right. You even got rap quotes and stuff. I mean, you really broke it down real nice. I give you your credit on that. So like, what would your message be, I guess, for the young boys that's out here running around? I mean, who had the same mentality as you, not even realizing why they doing what they doing and what's going on with them. What could you share with them that could possibly help them out?
Honestly, it's like you have to make your own decisions, and you can't be scared to not be a part of a certain group, or to be looked at as, you know, you not riding, or to be looked at as you not a part of us. Like, value your life. You know what I mean? The message is just like, you gotta value your life and value your time, because that shit you not gonna get back. Like the time that we spend in here, like I said, there's old heads in here that got 40 years that's locked up for homicide 40 years ago, and credit to that, like he took someone's life and their families were affected. You know what I mean? So it's like, value your life, like work on that self-esteem, because a lot of times it's like it's low self-esteem, and I ain't saying that as a diss to none of the young ones out there. It's just that it's reality, because when your self-esteem is high, you really thinking about your future, and if you running around out there and you really tripping, your future is not that. Your future is short. Like it's going to get cut short. Like you're going to. And that's like I said, there's no diss, because like I've been in it, and I'm super still and like, you know, attached to it. Like I got friends that's out there that's in it, but it's like you really gotta value your life, man, and not be scared to go the other way. Don't know how to, like, you know what I mean? It's fair. Like I know gangs right now. I don't want to call them gangs, because, you know, we say we don't have no gangs in the city, but in all actuality, that's what it is.
That's what it is now. Definitely now.
That's what it is. Definitely. Like so I know young boys like that's in certain gangs, that's in like a full-blown war. Like, I'm talking about these young boys, they dangerous. But even with them being so dangerous, they like, yo, I don't want to do this shit. Like, I ain't trying to die. Because when your homie get killed, you feel like you gotta protect that, you gotta honor that, and you gotta retaliate on that. But they not trying to die. Dude's not really trying to die. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not coming back from that. Your homie not coming back from that. My brother was dead for 20 years. He not coming back from that. So even if your man get killed, right, you feel like there's a responsibility. Like, I gotta retaliate that death. That's what's going on now, and that's gonna continue to go on as long as dudes feel like that. And it's like, and it's hard. It's honestly, bro, it's super hard to tell them young boys to put them guns down, because it's like everybody is not going to listen to that message. You know what I mean? So if one young boy choose to put his gun down, his opposition might, that's like a layup for them. Like, cause they still at it. Like, we still active. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can't be scared to uproot and make your own decisions and not follow your game, because it's like you really have to value your life, bro. And that's like flat out. Because once you in here, it's like most of these dudes, even if it's cat, because most of the time that shit be cat. They talk about changing their lives and what they should have did and all that. But you know, right now they talking about that when they looking at 20 years and they looking at a life sentence. It's like, when I get there, I'm done with this shit. You know what I mean? So you don't want to wait until you get in here to make that decision. Because you might be 40 years down the line and you're not getting that back. So it's like, really value your life, man. And if you say, and if you one of them, if you a gremlin or a demon or one of them, like, you could do like, take that energy and take that fearlessness and do something else with it. You know what I'm saying? And do something else with it. And like I said, everybody not going to receive this message. I know how that shit go. So I'm not telling dudes to not protect themselves, none of that. You know what I mean? Because that'd be like anything. And I ain't, like I said, I'm still super attached to it. I'm still super linked with it. I got friends that's out there in it. So I'm not telling them that. I'm just saying, like, value your life, man. Like, that's the main message. Value your life, man, and understand and work on your self-esteem and value life, period. Like, not only your life, just have a respect for life and time, period. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's real. That's real. And expanding upon that, because you touched on something like, everybody might not receive this message. Message might go over some people here, especially young boys that, because a lot of them feel like it can't happen to me. Nothing gonna happen to me. Like, I mean, like, so, yeah. And a lot of them, the young boys that, they've been in juvenile facilities and stuff like that, so they never been up top before, so they don't really know what it's like. So they might think it might be something like how I was in a juvenile joint, might be sweet. So even if they do get locked up, I mean, it ain't gonna about nothing. They can stand tall in there. So yeah. Just give me a little something for those guys who don't really know what it's like when you upstate around people that's on the same type time you was on, like. I mean, you ain't around a whole bunch of turkeys all day. I mean, it's people that's on that. So give people that, or give them a specific story or something that, so they can understand what it's like up there.
Like, Dirk said it. Dirk said he got booked when he was an adult. He thought it was going to be the same as a juvenile. You know what I'm saying? And that shit totally different. Like, I went through all those juvenile facilities. Like, I was mobbing through all those jakes when I was a young boy, and my name was ringing bells in them jakes. And motherfuckers know who I am to this day, off of that, and off of whatever kind of work motherfuckers put in when they was young. So my mindset and our mindsets being those juvenile joints, it'd be exactly that. But I remember one time specifically, and I just was talking to my homies about this shit, and I was in Vision Quest. No, I was in one of the lockdown juvenile joints. Like, that shit looked like a prison. I was in one of them, and my first day in the cell, I was sitting on the desk, and I was looking outside the window, and there was a rock right there. And I said, damn, this rock probably been here since this motherfucking building was built. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm like, and one of my homies just got killed, right? And it was like, I'm looking at the rock and I'm thinking that, like, and I'm really, because I always been a thinker, bro. Like, I want to say that, and that's another thing. Like, you got young ones, they gotta think. You gotta know how to think. You know what I mean? It's like you can't just go off emotions and feelings and your thoughts without thinking. Like, that's a whole different entity that people need to learn how to do. Like, you gotta learn how to think. And I always been a thinker, so I'm looking at this motherfucking rock, and it might seem crazy, Strap, but I'm looking at this motherfucking rock, and I'm thinking about my man, and I know when I come home, because I know this shit, you know, I'm in a juvenile joint, so I know I'm only going to be here for 6-8 months. So I'm like, but I understand that, you know, once I come home, if I choose to get active about my man, it's like, damn, can I do life like this rock doing? You feel what I'm saying? Like, I really asked myself that, and me and my homies just was having that conversation. And it's like, you go, like, you gotta, like, for the young boys, like, you really gotta ask yourself that. Cause it's not the same. Like, it's not the same. Even when I was in the juvenile and I was catching those gun cases, cause I had, you know, like, you gotta, like, I was my environment was dangerous. So it's like, I had to really protect myself. And that's what's going on now also. It's like, you gotta be, you got, like, we feel like we gotta be dangerous as well. And I understand that. However, when I was catching those gun cases, I was getting 6, 8 months, 12 months. It was nothing to me. You know what I mean? It was nothing to me. So it really didn't have that major effect or impact on me and my future decisions. And then this shit got different when I was an adult, and I caught two gun cases, and you know, that shit really didn't affect me because I bailed out. I bailed out on my gun cases. I had 2 gun cases that I was out on bail on, and then they came and arrested me for a homicide. I found out it was a warrant out for a homicide, and I'm like, yo, this shit. I'm like, what the fuck? You know, like I said, I'm fighting to maintain my innocence. So once they came and grabbed me for that, I'm sitting in the drink. It still didn't hit me. It's still like, it's young boys in the county now that feel like I'm not doing life, and they fighting 3 murders, and they fighting, you know, they fighting a couple murders, like, and they not really looking at like, yeah, I'm about to do life, because they not ready for that. You ain't ready for that. Like, niggas don't be ready to go, like, do this time. Like, that's what Gotti says. You ready to go to drop all this shit off, driving in these cars, like, you know, having sex with all these women, just living your life. Is you ready to go do a 20-year bid? Like, niggas don't be ready for that shit. And I don't even know how you can prepare to be ready for that. You know what I'm saying? So I was in the county, and I was down there. It was a couple, like, you know, players running around the city, and we all was down there, and it was a couple dudes that was spanking. You know what I mean? That was alhamdulillah. That was alhamdulillah to see somebody, you know, retain their freedom. You know, so, you know, once you see that, you like, you know, I'm gonna spank this joint. Like, I'm out this joint next. And then you might see somebody lose and get life. And I seen many dudes, like, you know, gats, you know, like, crying down there in that basement of CJC once they were sentenced to a life sentence. I'm talking about murderers, like live dudes with names and all that. Tears in their eyes once they got sentenced to a life sentence, and now they talking about their kids, and they talking about their baby mom and all that shit. And you don't worry about that shit until that judge give you the numbers. You feel what I'm saying? Like, you don't worry about that. And then you, like you said in the beginning of the interview, like, then you go through that whole appeal process, and you think it's all good, and you see the light, you see the door until that appeal get denied, and then your lawyer want another dime, and you got 5 years in. And motherfuckers ain't got that dime, like, motherfuckers ain't got that cash, so you gotta figure out how you gonna not only maintain your survival here with the commissary, you gotta figure out how you gonna pay this fucking lawyer. And that's what's going on now. Like, I know young boys now, like my young boy Baller from South Philly, he one of the thoroughest young boys I ever ran into, and we came from the county all the way upstate with each other, and he had to figure that shit out, and he figured that shit out. But there's so many other young boys that can't figure that shit out, and they can't wrap their hands around it, so they don't even go to the motherfucking law library. They high off of K2 all day. They trying to find it. They trying to get high. They storing e-cigarettes. They super in the way because they can't wrap their head around the reality that, you know, I got a life sentence, and I ain't never coming home. They just still talk about, you know, when I get there, and you ain't doing nothing to get there. Like, you just going off of false hope and dreams and shit, when shit real at this point. You know what I mean? I know a lot of good dudes that overturned sentences, you know, on the appeal process that was super on it, but it's just like a super long process, and there's nothing that you want to do, man. Like for all the young boys that's listening, like it's nothing that you want to go through, man. It ain't no sucker shit, it ain't no bitch shit, and none of that. Like motherfuckers know what's up with me, so they know how I'm gonna carry it, and they know I'm kicking real murder. Like this shit, like every nigga in this joint say I'm never coming back in this joint, cause it's that deep, like it's that corny, it's that wet. Like early, we all went to go pick up some sneaks, these big ass boo-boos, but for the jail, it's like the livest thing in. And I grabbed a couple pairs just cause that's just how I be carrying it. But I'm like, I'm looking at these joints, and the CO was like, and the CO looking at them. I'm like, man, these some fucking boo-boos. He said, yes, they are. But you know, we now this is this shit that we This is the shit that we have to cherish. And it's like, this shit ain't nothing you cherish, man. Like, this ain't the life you want to live. So it's like, don't wait until you in. Because there's niggas that's in here that got these years, and they sick about that. So it's like I said, it's really hard to tell niggas to put the guns down when it's on. You know what I'm saying? When it's active. But it's like, you gotta find a line. It's like, if you can reach a couple young boys that already want to do it, it's just like, have that courage to do that shit and check your traumas on why you making those decisions. Like, look at yourself, like look deep into yourself and understand why you making those decisions and what's influencing these decisions and what's influencing this behavior. And you know, trying to heal from your traumas and the losses and shit, that's what you gotta do. And hopefully you could do that before you get woken up by the motherfucking, you know, them boys coming to get you with a murder warrant and shit like that. Like, do that before you get sentenced to a life sentence and you downtown and you in the county thinking, you know, you ain't ready, you ain't getting sentenced enough, you gonna spank until you lose that shit. And then you 10 years down the line, you know, you stuck and you trying to figure out, you know, who got a suit that you could borrow off of. It's like, tighten the fuck up now. You feel what I'm saying? Tighten the fuck up now. Like, and that's just like the real, honest, raw truth.
Nah, for sure. All right, we got a couple minutes left on the visit, man. Let's touch on the book briefly. You know what I mean? Tell them about the book. Tell them how they can get it and all of that.
Right, man. The book, man, Untreated Trauma, Generational Curse. Like I said, I'm basically telling my story and, you know, my childhood traumas from the ages of 9, being woke up, you know, with the news that my brother was shot by a police officer. And then in the book, it's 9 chapters. I'm leading up to the part, to the event when I was arrested by that same cop, almost on the same block, that killed my brother, Sharon. Long live Ryan Dance, rest in peace, Sharon Kubier Howard. So, and I'm also breaking down, you know, just like, you know, not only the traumas, but the life experiences that I went through, from selling drugs to buying my first car to getting locked up out New Jersey, but all that surrounded. And it was affected by trauma. Like, these decisions that I was making, I'm putting you inside the thoughts and the emotions and the feelings of it, like, as is raw. Like I'm giving it to you raw. So definitely cop the book Untreated Trauma, man. It's on Amazon right now. You can get it on Amazon under the Kindle bookstore, or you could go on my page, my Instagram page _Big Blizzy, and I got a link on there that should send you right to it. And definitely cop the book, man. And definitely tune into everything that show doing and putting out there, man. Like, we tuned into Philly F.A.M.E TV, man, and this joint gonna go a long way.
No, for sure, man. And on that note, man, we signing out for now. Until next time, Philly F.A.M.E TV, your boy Blizzy. Make sure y'all check him out, Untreated Trauma, on Amazon, Kindle. Know what I mean? Like, check him out, support him. Know what I mean? For sure.
Free the Bloods, man. Free the men. Y'all already know we all we got, man. Free the Bloods. Free the men. Shout out to the men. My brother Nell Sturdy, G Hill, Fee Shorts. Fats just came home from 13-year Fab Bed, Lil Kev. All the guys, man. Free the men.
Early. And we out of here.